Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy Monday. It is me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nicholas Thomas Hausman, joined here as I am every Monday to get the week going off right. It's our good friend, Michael Wiseman. Michael, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's a Monday. We've had news. We're going to have more news. It's the Royal Rumble week. What's not to love, Nick? It's a great day. It's a great day.
You're getting some love here from Michael Thomas Banchitz. Today we get Between the Ropes. Shout out to BTW. Of course, you and Brian Fritz.
Yes, man. Thanks for the love. I was just talking to Brian just a little bit ago, saying we still get BTR love. I'm trying to get him to start it back up, but it's tough. The wrestling biz, tough thing these days.
How's Fritz doing? Is he well?
He's doing great, man. I gave him a hard time because his buddy Jerry Lynn got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I was like, "Why aren't you there, Fritzy?" He had other obligations, but Fritzy's doing great. He's doing helicopter and podcasting now. So if you need a podcast done right, check out Brian Fritz.
His job's crazy. Anyway, this isn't a Brian Fritz podcast, but yeah, I could never go up and handle a camera while being 10,000 feet in the air in a helicopter or whatever the hell he does,
Yeah, he does helicopter reporting. It's really awesome, but yeah, intense. So gotta love the dude. I just, love Brian Fritz, but love everybody joining us today as well. And just always fun to share the love here on a Monday afternoon.
Well, we got a lot of people showing the love here. My plant friend Nicholas is here. We got Adam Yarborough, Andrew Cormos, Samantha's here, Dino's here, Scott Housen's here, John is here, Aki is here from Oregon. Man, just loaded up today. I love it. If you want to jump in and be a part of the show, dive into the comment section wherever you're watching us live, 5 p.m. Eastern on all the Wrestling Inc. socials, YouTube, Twitch, all that great stuff. Please join the conversation. We would love to hear from you today. We have a great show. Later on, if you're listening in audio form, you're going to hear part 2 of Raj's interview with Diamond Dallas Page. Of course, we had part 1 last week, and in about 25 minutes, we're going to premiere that over on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel. If you want to watch it over there in video form after this show's done, you can jump over there. But at the end of the show for everybody, we'll dive into the Wrestling Inc. Daily Mailbag. We're going to talk about some AEW contracts that may be coming up here pretty soon, what that could mean, possible jumps to WWE. But let's dive right into this news. You can use news to leave a bruise. Now, there was some breaking news. It's not on the run sheet. I'll get to here in just a second. But for the sake of consistency, so I can stick to my run sheet and not get too brain frazzled here, I'll lead off what I was initially going to lead off with, but probably shouldn't lead off with. But that's the fact that Seth Rollins name dropped AEW star Jon Moxley during his promo segment with Roman Reigns on SmackDown. He called out Reigns for sending the Usos to Raw to attack him earlier in the week, stating how the tribal chief always needs others to do his dirty work for him. I made this the leadoff story because, Michael, it generated by far the most attention of anything on the site for 72 hours, 4 or 5 times, whatever number 2 was. Do you get the interest in this happening? What do you think drove the interest in this particular story?
I'm still hooked on this. We got some breaking news to get to, so I am on the hook for whatever this news is because I don't think I have seen it yet today. I'll check it out when we get to it on the run sheet. Okay. Dude, fans go wild and ape over anytime a wrestling company mentions another wrestling company because can you believe that Vince McMahon would even acknowledge or let them say on TV that anybody else exists? Dude, I'm glad it makes fans happy, and that's why they do it. But let's be real. Sami Zayn mentioned AEW like 2 years ago on Raw, and this is not a new thing. Jon Moxley's been around. It does the right thing for WWE, right? It gets them a little bit extra attention. It makes their storyline between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins feel just that much more personal and realistic, but it doesn't mean Mox is going to be in the Rumble this year. Let's just say that.
No, and I also just think that they would look dumb if they called him Dean Ambrose at this point. He's just so known as Jon Moxley. It's a cooler name, so whatever. Okay, here's the big news that we should have probably led this show off with. So Fightful reporting a little less than an hour ago, Ronda Rousey in talks to come back to WWE. Now, I guess Brian Alvarez over on Wrestling Observer saying that he's heard that she's definitely going to be in the Rumble. That's when she's coming back. So pretty big addition to the Rumble. Ronda Rousey coming back to WWE. What are your thoughts on this thing, Michael, if true?
I think it's what the Women's Royal Rumble need. I guess at this point, she's going to be a surprise because there's no official channels unless we hear otherwise tonight on Raw.
Right.
But they've been out there trying to get some talent stirred up for this Women's Royal Rumble, especially because their main roster is a little bit thin at this point. And I think Ronda Rousey coming back will create a splash and create some buzz. I have concerns. The biggest concern being, I think hot-shotting and jumping to her, maybe winning this thing or being in the title picture might be too much at this point, and they've done that too often in the past. But on the other side, this is going to create some buzz, create some news, and I think is a very big deal for a company that needs this for the Women's Rumble.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eddie Zamhari99 here, I think, saying what a lot of fans are thinking, which is if Ronda does return at the Rumble, she's likely going to be the one to win it all. I don't know that that's it. I mean, look, Ronda Rousey coming back, putting herself back in the main event of WrestleMania, certainly very compelling. But I've had this theory for a little bit, and I don't really think I've talked about it. But like, you know how they've announced all these legends and stuff for the Women's Rumble match, and now there's this kind of CM Punk-esque, we all know he's going to be there, so get excited, even though we're not going to tell you he's going to be there kind of energy. I already am getting off this Ronda Rousey thing.
Sure.
Part of me thinks the reason they got all those surprises out of the way is because the real surprises are going to be women that they are invested in coming back, right? Like a Bayley coming back, a Lacey Evans coming back,
an
Asuka coming back. Their pops will be bigger because they're the surprises. The surprises aren't the actual surprises. Those surprises have been spoiled. So those, I don't know what you call it, anti-surprises now.
Sure.
I don't know. But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think it's a good theory, right? Because then you're kind of building up some hype already and announcing some big names. And then we still get some great moments like Ronda Rousey. I'm not saying she shouldn't be in the Rumble. This would be a great surprise. I have reservations about her winning, but her, Asuka, Bayley, those could feel like really big deals come Royal Rumble this Sunday. And, like, for me, it's not that a legend can't win or an outsider can't win. I just don't think it should be Ronda Rousey. Lita, I think that was a theory you postulated at one point in the past. That could be a really fun surprise who was not a typical week-to-week WWEer to win the Rumble. But yeah, I think you're onto something, right? Ronda Rousey, fun surprise, not announced. We could still have some of those coming up this Sunday.
Yeah, and you know what? Ronda doesn't need to win the Rumble. Like, if anything, I'd be far more interested to see somebody eliminate Ronda and use that as a catalyst, right? Because Ronda Rousey doesn't need to be in that main event picture. You can always play with that after the fact, after Mania is over, if she wants to stick around and you want to roll something out going into the spring, which is typically kind of a lull time for them anyway, going into the summer season, right? But
you
anyway,
can still get her into a title picture come February. Like, she doesn't have to win the Rumble to get into one of the brand's title pictures going into the summer season.
Ronda Rousey does not need this win at Royal Rumble.
Sure.
But Antonio Garcia here saying it's because Becky didn't win clean against Ronda. So I guess they're going to maybe run that back. They're going to put it right back in there with Becky and maybe Charlotte.
That is their playbook. I mean, they do it with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar all the time. I don't want to give them too much credit because they do love big names on a marquee, and no two bigger names than Charlotte and Becky or Charlotte and Ronda or Ronda and Becky, right? Like, that's what they do. But again, she don't have to win the Rumble for that match to take place.
Yeah. Well, a couple more Rumble items, and that's why I wedged this in there, because it was going to really mess up my flow if I started there anyway. So Fightful also saying that Impact Knockouts Tag Team Champions, The Inspiration, Cassie Lee and Jess McKay, reportedly were offered spots for the 2022 Women's Rumble, but turned down those offers. And, God, that's got to be weird, right? They fire you, but then, like, a couple months later, they want you back. What a time.
I can't blame them, right? Just like we talked a few weeks ago about Mickie James, and she's willing and ready to embrace it, and business is business to her. I will play the other side of this, which is to some people, this can feel and become very personal. I'm not saying they feel that way. This is me extrapolating the situation, right? So not saying I know how they feel, but sometimes you just don't want to go back and do business with the one who didn't do you right fully the first time, or even you're just moved on. I don't need to go back there. We don't need to hang out again. We're past this. We're adults now, right? So
I think it's way smart of them to not take this nod. If they can't, and it sets, I kind of feel like a precedent too, that like we could fire you, but everybody's willing to come back quickly after. That I don't really think is a good precedent for a lot of reasons. So I think good on them. I think it's a smart move. By the way, Dino here, back to Ronda Rousey saying, how will Ronda react if she gets booed out of the building against Becky again? I mean, she'll probably get a big pop at the Rumble, but the fans were kind of all over her towards the end of her last run. And I think it's a 50-50 shot that they might decide to get Bowie on Ronda Rousey at the Rumble if she comes back. I don't know. I'd like to see her go straight heel. She was already talking trash. She called wrestling fake. She said some really kind of bad stuff about the business, that maybe you should just do it to work the sheets. Who knows?
Well, I think too, WWE plays around with audience noise some nowadays, and what is a heel, what is a face in the modern WWE. So I don't know if it's that big of a deal. I want to say something else about the Iconics here.
Sure.
I think we assume a lot of legends are all the same, or people who've been in the business are all the same. The other thing for the Iconics here, Mickie James has done the whole rodeo with every company and won every major title. The Iconics are still trying to establish who they are in a post WWE world. And I think going back to WWE at this point maybe does them less of a service as it does somebody like Mickie James, who is so established and so much bigger at that point. They don't need to go back, and I worry it would regress some of the great work they've done since leaving WWE to go back so soon.
Yeah, I agree with that. And looking over here at the Men's Rumble, PWInsider.com saying current NXT champion Braun Breaker and Gunther, formerly known as Walter, are scheduled to be present in St. Louis for Saturday's pay-per-view. No confirmation quite yet if they'll be in the Rumble match or used in some other capacity. But I think, again, Vince is doing what I wanted him to do with NXT 1.0, which was give the NXT talent a rub by showcasing them at high-profile WWE events. We saw it the one time at Survivor Series. It was awesome. A lot of attention. A lot of interest. And then they just didn't put any NXT people in the Rumble, and it felt weird.
That's my question coming out of this. Like, if we do see a Braun Breaker show up or a Walter Gunter or whatever.
Call him coming Gunther. His name is Gunther now.
Gunter. If we see them show up, does this mean they're call-ups? Obviously, Braun Breaker is still the NXT champion. He's not going to bring that belt up, although Kevin Owens did it, right? Other people have done it. So how do they use them coming out of this? I agree with you. The rub is good. But the problem is, what do we do with these guys once they're on the main roster and they have failed time and time and time again to do anything meaningful with an NXT 1.0 guy on the main roster?
But here's the thing that's different now, right? And there's a lot of bad and wrong with what I feel like is going on in NXT, and we're literally about to talk about it. That's the next story because people inside feel that way as well. But before it was Triple H, so before there was an obvious disconnect, right? Triple H, dark, gritty, men, wrestlers, top independent talent, international talent that were not working a style that Vince McMahon likes or have the appearance that a Vince McMahon likes. Now you're getting guys that Vince is fully invested in. He's got his people down there developing them, grooming them, and he's got more skin in the game now to see these talents through succeeding onto the main roster. There's a great phrase in pro wrestling that I thought everybody knew, but this weekend I said it and somebody had never heard this, like explaining it to a fan or something. But pass the heat, right? You don't want to have the heat. You want to pass the heat, right? And before, if somebody failed, Vince could pass the heat. That's Hunter's fault, right? Sure. Now the heat's more. I mean, now you're going to pass it to a Bruce or an Ed Koskey, but it's less people to pass the heat to. And I feel like Vince is going to have more of an investment in a Braun or a Gunther or, Grayson Waller, that kind of deal.
I think that's fair. I also think you're looking at these two big names. I think you're going to struggle to get more than about 2, 3, 4 names from NXT that would make a big splash. I think Tommaso Ciampa could still be a fun surprise, but I don't expect them to do a ton with him on the main roster. But you get past Braun Breaker, you get past a Gunther. What other big name would you bring up from NXT that would still have some of that kind of prestige about them showing up in the Rumble that the fans would care about?
I think that Tony D'Angelo would probably be somebody that would maybe get a pop. I think the way they push Grayson Waller, it's not like he get a big reaction, but he's more established with the mainstream fans than a lot of the talents in NXT right now.
That's fair, but I think your depth of roster down there, you pull, even if you were to bring up one of those guys, I'm not saying they would be main roster call-ups, but if they were towing the line for the time being, I could see them doing that with Braun Breaker. You're going to show up on Raw and on NXT. You're going to start seeing the lack of depth. A lot of great talent down there. They just need to be, worked on a little bit down in NXT. And I think there's just a lack of depth right now that the fans care about.
Well, we have Tuckcraft here, by the way, with my favorite comment maybe ever submitted to the show. The Boogeyman should make an appearance at the Rumble. He always looks in shape and ready to go. He's never at a loss for worms either. Wow, that was great. Good play. He's not at a loss for words. He's never at a loss for worms. That's the kind of, that's what you know what? I like you, Tuckcraft. That was well written.
He always knows where to stop at his local bait and tackle shop. Not that hard to find some worms, y'all.
So if we kvetch, as we kvetch here about NXT 2.0, it doesn't seem like we're alone. Matt Men podcast, Andrew Zarian, with a follow-up to the report last week that there was some internal unhappiness or unease with NXT 2.0. Mattman saying a lot of the blame about the NXT 2.0 product is being out on the abruptness of how everything was changed. A source noted the following: fan perception of the product isn't helping either. Changes had to have been made, but not like this. It was also said that if the NXT system was broken, according to many in the company, and changes were needed to fix the problems, move forward. One goal was to have a much younger audience, but the median viewer age for this week's NXT was 61. The median viewer age for New Year's Evil on January 4th was 58. So if the plan was to go younger, apparently not a lot of people in our age group watching NXT, you know?
Ouch. Oof. Well, I guess they can at least say that for NXT, maybe demographics don't matter. So they're not competing for that 18 to 35.
It's just becoming pretty obvious to me that it's a generational thing now, right? Like if you were a part of it when it was hot and cool, you stuck around, maybe still have some nostalgia for it, but they just haven't been able to connect with another generation since. I mean, we're seeing drop-offs as time goes by just because they're not hooking anyone from young people, from any, millennials, Gen Xers, right? Gen Zers. Xers the old ones. Yeah. So, I mean, they're just not grabbing people as generations go by. Less and less young fans are being made year by year.
And say what you will about AEW and the Wednesday Night Wars that were very short-lived, but AEW did kind of suck the air out of the room for that 18 to 35 demographic, especially the one that watched NXT on Wednesday nights every week, right? I agree with this, right? Fan perception of the product isn't helping, but the abruptness of the changes, I think the biggest problem is they called it NXT 2.0. NXT meant something very different from the main roster, and that's what made it so special throughout the last 7-8 years, right? But it reminds me of whenever they converted ECW, when they relaunched it in the mid 2000s, and then in the late 2000s converted it to ECW, the kind of jobber show to the stars.
Yeah.
And they did the exact same thing there. It didn't mean ECW anymore. Why call it that? This is not NXT 2.0, 3.0, whatever. It's an entirely different product. Relaunch it as a different brand.
I think what they're hoping for is kind of what I think Tony Khan is going for with AEW Dark, which is that this is a place to just kind of introduce characters, and you're going to want to know them. You're going to want to say you knew them when they were NXT because they're going to go on to become bigger deals, right? Which has not really been the case with NXT. A lot of people see NXT, they're like, this is great, but once they're off the island, it's kind of a crapshoot, right? I think they're hoping to kind of turn the key here where they're like, no, NXT is actually like it's less developed talent, but these guys and women will actually go on to success. You're going to want to catch them now. You know what I mean?
I see that, and that works in line with their NIL whole thing where they're going to bring college athletes in and we're going to develop them straight out of the college. We're going to have a pipeline from you graduate until you're a WWE WrestleMania main eventer, right? I understand that. I guess my question would be, when it comes to that, you're doing some version of that. Fans, by and large, you have your core set of fans who care, but it's not broadening your audience at that point. And are your TV overlords happy? Maybe they are. And so good for them. They're achieving their business goals. Why do we care?
Well, the latest hashtag trend amongst fans this weekend was hashtag Free Ali. It was trending last night as fans continued to campaign for WWE to release Mustafa Ali. According to several fans, they were blocked by the WWE on Fox handle for responding to tweets using the hashtag. Ali responded to one particular fan with a screen grab of him apparently blocking WWE on Fox. How do you think this one ends? How do you think this one goes?
Well, I have a question for you. Why is Ali the one that they refuse to release right now? Do they think he has that much value somewhere else, or are they just mad at him?
Yes. It's all about value because, you don't want Ali out there talking about whatever it is that Vince pitched to him that was so bad that it made him want to leave the company, right? So you're going to want to try to maybe keep a muzzle on that. Two, I've heard for a long time that, and this is for people in both companies, WWE, they understand the value of an Ali for whatever reason they're not getting the most out of it, but they understand how he would fit in perfectly over at AEW. And he is a great talker, wonderful backstory, wonderful kind of champion for whatever company he's at the moment. He could go. He's one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. I think that guy gets a chance to grab a microphone and run free over in AEW. it might be interesting to see how much of a game changer he could be for them. He's a real secret weapon, honestly. He is.
Well, I think when it comes to the Twitter here, right? What you have is the interns or whoever else running the Twitter show. I do not believe Rupert Murdoch has sat down and said, "Listen, we have a vested stake in WWE. Let's make sure we protect them at all costs." I am sure that the Free Ali hashtag was super annoying and probably clogging up a ton of their notifications on Friday night and just really bothering the hell out of them. So they're blocking people. It's annoying. Blah blah blah. It's a big whoop. I think it's unfortunate that a talent is being treated like this and that social media is reflecting that as fans rally around the sport. And it's indicative of the bigger problem that WWE has right now and not responding to what fans want.
Now, here's the thing. Is Ali in the Rumble?
I would say no. Gut instinct says you don't want anywhere near this controversy associated with you right now, especially if you're trying to dodge bad storylines that he could kind of rat you out about.
Part of me thinks they're going to see this and be like, oh, that guy's got some energy behind him right now. The fans are really rooting for Ali right now. We can maybe hitch our wagon to this and kind of turn it in our favor, right? Like the plucky young renegade that is fighting the system. They love that. That's their whole thing, right? Now, whether or not they're smart enough to kind of turn this into something, we'll see. But man, Ali, his music hits, he comes out. That's a big pop. That's a big pop right now. And does he go deep? Do they throw him out real quickly and piss everybody off?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, I just don't know that you can't touch the hot stove in this situation. You know, it's just too tempting.
Could be. And how they treat him. You know, a couple of years ago, he was right on the verge of very big things if the rumors and innuendos are correct, right?
Right around this time. Around this time. This is when it was supposed to.
Elimination Chamber, right? Kofi Mania took over and let's see.
I'm going to give it 60-40 he's in it. I'm a little more than 50%. I don't think they can't do it. I feel like they're too tempted.
Well, and maybe it does deflect the right way. If you, to your point from a few minutes ago, if Ali is the kind of talent that WWE, you think and you hear that WWE sees him as being, right? He's not just somebody we're looking to cut ties with and get away from. There's still potential in him. We wouldn't want him going somewhere else. Why not make some money? Do a t-shirt. Hell, make hashtag Free Ali the next storyline. It ties into his hacker gimmick and everything else that he's done. You could do big things with this and get your payday as a company as well.
And I see here, I got a couple of things. I'll get Terry Allen Jr., by the way, wants your thoughts on 2K 2022. We'll just bring it up in the mailbag. Not really the right time, Terry, but thank you for the super chat. Disco Joseph, Mustafa Ali is good, but Nick, let's not act like he's the next coming of Daniel Bryan or CM Punk. He's a good hand, but not a game changer, ratings mover. And I disagree with that, Disco. And you use Daniel Bryan as one of your own examples. As soon as Daniel Bryan got some clout and they were trying to keep him happy and they were letting him do on TV what he wanted to do, the very first person Brian Danielson wanted to work with and put on the map was Mustafa Ali. And I think if a guy like Bryan Danielson could see somebody like that, and I've read and heard from many people in the business, you know, just what they see, like I see in a Mustafa Ali, he has just not been given good booking. And that is probably why you see him the way he is, because you've never really seen him get that opportunity. If given that opportunity, I think all bets are off.
Well, and this is the same thing with Daniel Bryan 10 years ago. This is a great comparison. This guy got fired on his debut night on Raw when the Nexus interfered and all that stuff, right? He came back. They didn't really do a ton with him that first year or so. They got him in some storylines, some mid-card stuff, right? Once they got some momentum behind him, a huge star, but even then it was kind of push and pull until WrestleMania 30 or whichever one it was with the Yes Movement, right? So my point is, you're right. He's not a needle mover in today's world. But with the right booking, this dude could be as big if that talent is there like a Daniel Bryan is.
And Disco Joseph here saying good points, Nick. You know what? I like that. This is good back and forth. That's my very respectful comment.
Praise Nick. You'll get on the podcast is what we're saying.
I mean, hey, first he told me I was an idiot. I was like, well, give me a chance to respond. And now we're back. We're cool. So that's good. So lastly here, before we get to DDP, if you're in audio form, then we'll dive in the mailbag. We'll talk 2K 2022 as well, Terry. But
I have opinions.
Kevin Eck has teased this week via the Ring of Honor website. He's a former WWE writer, went to go work for ROH. That a major announcement is going to be revealed this week, and it was noted that the news will excite, quote, anyone who has ever been a Ring of Honor fan once it's announced, unquote. So they've got Super Card of Honor going on WrestleMania weekend. What do you want to speculate? You got any idea what do you think this could be?
I mean, it seems like some kind of soft relaunch, but I think for Kevin Eck to get out there and kind of tease that, excite anyone who has ever been a Ring of Honor fan once, I think we're talking about the return of the basics of Ring of Honor, like the Honor Code and kind of how they used to build their shows and matches 15 years ago. Is that what we're looking at?
I think they found a buyer.
Huh.
That's my gut. Like, I had heard that, of course, they were in a position where, everything on the boat needed to go as long as it floated. And I would not be surprised if we hear a Tony Khan has bought Ring of Honor, a Jeff Jarrett has bought Ring of Honor. That's what this feels like to me. And not a formal soft relaunch, but somebody else owns this now, somebody you like and know, and we'll see where it goes from here. That's what this feels like to me.
How do I say this the right way? What is the role of Ring of Honor in 2022, right? Because right now, WWE is still the big dog. AEW has carved out their own audience. They're a WCW for the modern age. Game Changer Wrestling this weekend, last night, proved they are the real deal as far as serving up that ECW notch and that indie niche a little bit, right? What does Ring of Honor do, especially if a Tony Khan buys them?
That's a great question. I just think, look, you got the archive
Dixie
there.
Carter, can we give the nod to...
Yes. Nalraz Shukri here saying Dixie Carter will be the one to purchase Ring of Honor. Look, I mean, there's so much name talent out there right now that, Bray Wyatt is just wandering around, right? I mean, there is so much marquee talent. I don't think Impact is going to... I don't see them stepping up in a way where they're going to be meaningful here for much longer. And I think that with a Ring of Honor, there's such a appreciation by the fans. Again, in the hands of the right person who knows how to properly get the most out of that archive, knows what to take from that brand that people did connect with. It's just another place for fans to go where I think you could present something that's a little bit more, akin to them. I don't know.
Well, and I feel like you can't devalue how crucial that tape archive is. It's got so many big name talents. You've brought in guys like CM Punk and Bryan Daniels. Samoa Joe is still out there. You bring these guys under your umbrella. You're going to have this archive of all of their work before WWE. You get back. I mean, you get the original All In. You're trying to sell your product to Warner Brothers and maybe get on to HBO Max or streaming services and be kind of like the Peacock deal. Tony Khan, the reason those YouTube shows exist is because Tony Khan is trying to build up this whole little bundle of, we have 1 million hours of streaming content. You buy this or you give us that rights deal, you're getting all this back. Like, it doesn't matter if it's primary stuff or not. So I think this could play into Tony Khan's business hand very well if your speculation is correct.
All right, Michael. Well, thank you for joining me at the top of the show. Talk all the news today. Thank you to everybody for jumping in. What a lively comment section it's been here today. So
y'all are great.
Yeah, very, very good. Headlock heel, Cody bought Ring of Honor. I don't think that's true, right? But we're going to get to the mailbag here. By the way, thank you to Raj and DDP for that great conversation. We only have a couple minutes left here in the mailbag where we're going to talk about this AEW story. But, Michael, 2K22. Terry paid us $2 American with a super chat for your opinions. What
Terry, thank you for asking. I appreciate your super chat support and for asking the question. I would say wait on reviews. I've been a huge WWE gamer for many, many years, and have reviewed a lot of them. And 2K has just been so inconsistent and bad, and this game has been much delayed. And what even is the roster? Can they even keep up with all the changes? So what I would say is, they got some promising stuff out there. I love the return of a GM mode that's more like the classic GM mode. That could be exciting. But wait until we see reviews to see how the gameplay is, because that's where 2K loses it all the time. The bugs, everything else. 2K14, I think, was the last really great one, and that one was really made by THQ. Go check that one out, but wait on this one.
All right. Well, there you go. Michael Wiseman, 60-second 2K22 review. So now let's get to the mailbag. My question is, which AEW talent that is rumored to be leaving would you be most interested in seeing jump to WWE? This stems from a PWInsider.com report saying that Peter Avalon's deal actually did expire with AEW. He's one of several stars that's going to be seeing their deals expire in the coming months. It is yet to be confirmed that there are still options, or it is yet to be confirmed, but there are still opportunities for Avalon to work with AEW on a per-performance basis similar to how some AEW dark talent is booked. Other AEW stars that have contracts expiring soon include 3 names in particular: Marco Stunt, Joey Janela, and the Machine Brian Cage. So that takes us over to our poll where I listed Cody Rhodes, Brian Cage, Janela, and everybody else as potential people that could leave and go to WWE. About 300 votes here. 57.4% want to see Brian Cage be the one to jump. 33.6 goes to Cody Rhodes. Only 2.7 for poor Joey Janela, who many people wrote Joey Janela will not work in WWE. So I think they just wrote that one off. And 6.3% go to everybody else. What do you think of the story? Who do you want to see jump if they become available?
I mean, I want to see Cody Rhodes here, but it seems like the online fans hate this man so much. They won't even vote for him to go to WWE. Brian Cage has the look and maybe has the potential for Vince to groom him into his own kind of style and take over NXT 2.0, whatever else. But the most interesting story on this one to me is Cody Rhodes and what you can build off of there with what he's done since leaving that company.
Yeah. And, I see, a lot of people saying like Doom Tribe T here. Brian Cage feels like a WWE guy. My thing about Brian Cage is I just think I hate to be like, just be truthful. Okay.
Sure.
I think he's too old. I think he's too old for Vince, right? Like there's a 30-year and younger hiring edict right now in WWE. And Cage is a little bit older. He's big. I think the pre-existing injuries beforehand, maybe cast him down. And I also worry that like they do something stupid with him, like Cross, right? Like, or Keith Lee, right? Like he's a big guy. We thought Keith Lee and Cross were good layups. We're like, yeah, these guys would be huge stars. And they fizzled relatively quickly once they hit the WWE main roster. I don't know that they would get a Brian Cage. Cody Rhodes, I think they'd get. I think they make a bunch of money with Cody Rhodes. I don't think he's leaving though, right? Yeah. So I don't really know. I mean, I guess I honestly kind of do lean a little Janela for NXT just because I think if you're trying to bring in younger fans and make that product cool, throw Joey Janela in your mix ain't gonna hurt that.
I could see it. I think Janela's could never work in the more corporatized WWE world, though, right? Brian Cage, I think you would give him a gimmick, and that's what they would do. It would not be the Brian Cage that we know today. It would be the Monster Machine. I don't talk, but I rip through opponents. Brian Cage, the Terminator, or something like that. That's the route they would go. But they've done that with plenty of guys. Mason Ryan, they have the look, but they can't deliver on what WWE fully wants. And maybe you're right. He wouldn't succeed there.
All right. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of the show here today. The part 2 of DDPs.
Someone said Marco Stunt. Can we just say Marco Stunt? That's God. They would use it for comedy, I guess.
Again, though, like Marco Stunt in NXT, I don't hate it, right? Do they get? But look, these GCW guys, maybe they don't need to be on the main roster. I mean, it goes against kind of the grain for what they're trying to actually use NXT for right now. But if your product median age is 61 and you are looking to bring that down, toss a Janela in, toss a Marco Stunt in. It cannot hurt. It cannot hurt.
That was Jay Pitts on Twitter. Sorry to cut you off there, Nick. Thank you, Jay Pitts, for reaching out.
Yeah, and Jared here saying, yeah, Brian Cage is 37. 37 is old, guys. I know. I'm turning 37 next week. That's
got a few good years left in me.
That's where I'm at. So, all right. Thank you all so much. Come back tomorrow. We're going to have all or some of the MLW media call with Hammerstone on tomorrow's show. We are also going to have on the show EJ Cameron from Second City, Chicago. If you like the Wrestling Inc. Daily, support us on iTunes. Those 5-star ratings and comments really help us out. I haven't seen a 5-star rating or a comment in about a week. And that makes me feel like you guys don't care. And I know you care. So go do that. Also, support WrestlingInc.com. We're on all the socials. And, of course, the Wrestling Inc. podcast goes down tonight after Raw. So come back for that. Michael, anything you want to put over?
No, thanks for all the love this today. Thanks for the love. Appreciate you all. I am on Twitter at The Real Wiseman. I always enjoy the conversation over there as well.
All right, everybody. And I am at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. Thank you, everybody, for telling me how old you are in the chat room right now. That's wonderful. Talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.